Thank you. And Sydney, it's amazing that you brought us all together, because as different as our lives and our work are, we're asking the same questions and seeking the same kind of opening up of conversation and learning that is not just about the mind but the body together. And we're seeking healing. And it's just remarkable that we're all here. I'm Director of International Relations at 92nd Street Y. I have the pleasure of working with the two people on either side of me. Edward is obviously my colleague there, and Shahini, who you'll have the pleasure of meeting very soon, if you don't already know her, was a fellow in a program that I have had the joy to direct since we launched in 2001. It's called the Ford Motor Company. Forgive me, my title is Director of International Relations, but the real gist of it is that I have the pleasure of enabling worlds to meet that otherwise might not, and to connect in meaningful ways that enrich each other's lives. Among the programs we do is one called the Ford Motor Company International Fellowship of 92nd Street Y. It's a leadership and management training. And the canvas for creating this program was wide open. So over the years, as we've had components in the training that involve pracademic learning, practical academic learning, strategic planning, budgeting, how to identify one's leadership style, one's management style, relationship building, fundraising, looking at management challenges that people have had, human resources challenges, conflicts within the workplace, difficulties in moving ideas through a workplace in which some people are open to change and others aren't, sort of classic human scenarios. And in that process, we do a lot of talking and we do a lot of sharing. We also visit major nonprofits in the city who are great models of management excellence, leadership excellence, nonprofits that address the kinds of pressing concerns that the leaders we attract to the program we address. So, for example, this leadership and management training brings people from emerging countries around the world who are committed to addressing the most urgent challenges in their communities and healing their communities. And that's the one common denominator. That work is manifested in many ways. Some work with people who have been trafficked and their recovery. Others work with people who have been abused in various ways, who have been refugees, who are facing the kind of despair that leads both parents in a family to drink and to self-anesthetize because their situation is so painful. We have participants who are working in sustainable development, the environment, negotiations between tribal leaders in some places and government officials and outsiders who are well-wishers who come in, and there's often so much disconnect in even the best intentioned communication. We work with people who are fighting for the right for girls to go to school in areas where they don't, and I think you get the idea. So when these people come, usually from 8 or 9 countries at a time, and we now include, by the way, our first American fellows, people from the city of Detroit, which is a city that is determined with extraordinary resilience to rebuild and re-inspire itself. And we bring everyone together and we ask each other to help each other and to help each other solve each other's problems. So while we provide resources at Columbia University, Yale University, we visit wonderful nonprofits like the Doe Fund and Grayston Bakery, and maybe you're familiar with these places. They have amazing models for addressing the needs of the most marginalized populations in our community and helping people reintegrate into lives that they feel are meaningful and productive. what I noticed in the process of this intensive fellowship, which by the way, this year ended today, and 3 weeks of intensive training, is that we could do better in supplying more tools of leadership and management to our fellows. And we could do better in improving the process of an already enriching, enjoyable program by incorporating movement, by incorporating dance. And perhaps it might sound unrealistic, but my expectation for this extraordinary 3 weeks, when people, extremely busy people, leave their communities that need them, leave their families that need them, come all the way to New York to spend a very rigorous learning experience. My expectation is that every day should be joyful. And to do that, we needed to dance and we needed to move. And likewise, we also bring together people, some of whom cannot actually visit each other because their countries don't have diplomatic relations. And we have difficult discussions in which people have different political views about each other's countries and the like. And there comes a point when, in a process of learning, the brain can only handle so much information and can only saturate so much. And the release that dance has provided us, I'm going to tell you various ways in which we've used dance and movement, the opportunity that dance and movement have opened up to allow people to connect when they have serious disagreements, or when they don't have the words to express feelings, is remarkable. And I think it's fair to say that as we've incorporated more and more movement and experimented with movement over the years, the fellowship, no matter how intense it is, has become lighter and lighter and lighter, almost as if it floats by as people learn and transform themselves. When you bring together people who are used to working with highly traumatized populations and themselves suffer vicarious trauma, or perhaps have experienced trauma firsthand, a lot can happen when you bring them together as colleagues in a group, and again, for a really intensive experience. Patterns I noticed over these 15 rounds of the fellowship were that people could be anxious. People in leaving high-stress situations that sort of girdled them at home sometimes unraveled a bit when they came together in the more, in the less tension and conflict-filled atmosphere of our fellowship in New York City. And those anxieties could be expressed as, constant complaints that the food wasn't like home, even though we made very bold efforts to supply rice at every meal, or porridge if necessary, and different kinds of starch and different kinds of taste. Different, sometimes a negativity, just about experience in general that could have a big effect on a small group. And also a kind of unawareness about one's relation to others in a spatial way. So a leader doing amazing work, bringing two sides of a conflict together, I would notice sometimes in our group, might be standing in the middle of, unwittingly, of two people having a conversation. And that affected that leader's clout within the group and sort of credibility within the group. So the whole question opened up to me about what it means to be a great leader and a really effective manager. And if we talk a lot about listening to the people we serve, listening to what they really want, listening to our colleagues, being open to empowering the people who work with us, that's great. But it has to start within. Otherwise, all of that is just an intellectual exercise, and it's betrayed by one's body and by one's body language if there isn't that alignment that begins inside our bones and our muscles. So we set out on a journey to enhance that aspect of our leadership training. And Shohini brought to us dance movement therapy when she was a fellow with us in 2010. That I don't want to steal her thunder, so I won't say anything more except that it's a critical part of her work in working with traumatized populations, and she wanted to bring it to our fellowship. And all I said to her was, that's fine, but because no one here came to this leadership and training expecting to dance or to move, I just want to give people the option not to move, but with requests that they stay and watch. Well, from that point on, when we started working with dance movement therapy, consistently the people who sat out at first, not wanting to participate, ended up being the greatest fans of the whole exercise. They were just sort of brought into it, felt the relief. And as the group, which had gotten to know each other in so many different ways, got to know each other through dance and movement, we created a whole other level of trust, communication, self-knowledge, and knowledge of each other, awareness of each other, and respect for each other. This gave me an excuse to work with Edward and Edward's team, which was absolutely eye-opening. Here we were 6 floors apart in an institution, and I never had the chance to explore your just extraordinarily rich world. So it was through Shohini in India that I came to know really Edward's work deeply 6 floors below. And that says a lot about how we often compartmentalize in a workplace and think that one field is one field and another field is another when we should be cross-pollinating all the time. So over the years, we've also added other aspects of movement. We do something called brain gym. I don't know if you've heard of brain gym, but it's a simple way of building self-awareness and self-management through crossing the median line of our body and with various exercises. They're very simple. And through these exercises, we created greater awareness about our left brain qualities, our right brain qualities, left, right-handed, leg, ear, and so on. And then we became aware of how different we were in this very physical way. We would, at the end of a brain gym exercise, you could get a group of 25 different people with different heights, different ages, different feelings about being physical, different capacity for being physical, even one of our participants who is missing an arm. And you had all of us bouncing a ball together from hand to arm, or part of arm, in synchronicity. So you'd hear a single sound when we bounce a ball. The fact that the exercises brought us to that point only reinforced the kind of trust and sense of understanding among community leaders who are sharing a great deal of vulnerable and